What if every book you didn't finish was still dreaming about you? Imagine them waiting patiently on a shelf, holding on to the world you both discovered, hoping you might one day return. This is a story about that very idea, about the quiet magic that lingers in forgotten pages. In a small, unassuming town, nestled between rolling hills and a sleepy river, stood an old library. Time had seemed to forget this place, and so had most of the town's residents. By day, dust motes danced in the slivers of sunlight that pierced the tall, arched windows. But by night, an even deeper stillness fell. The shelves, heavy with countless volumes, stood like silent sentinels in the dark. Each book was a universe, a collection of hopes, fears, and adventures. But they all remained closed, their stories untold, their voices hushed. The air was thick with the scent of aged paper and binding glue, a perfume of patience and solitude. The only sound was the occasional creak of old wood settling, a sigh in the profound quiet. These books, once vibrant with the touch of eager hands, now rested in an endless, dreamless sleep, their covers like sealed eyelids. They held galaxies within them, but for now those galaxies were dark, waiting for a spark, a reader, to bring them back to life. One evening, as a relentless rain drummed a somber rhythm against the ancient window panes, a student, weary and burdened, pushed open the heavy oak door of the library. They were a silhouette against the stormy world outside. Their shoulders slumped under the weight of expectations and the exhaustion of a long, fruitless day. The warmth of the library was a stark contrast to the cold, damp air they'd just left, but it did little to soothe the hollowness they felt inside. Their mind was a fog of deadlines, pressures, and a quiet, gnawing sense of being adrift. "I can't remember my dreams anymore," the thought echoed in their mind, a silent admission of defeat. It wasn't just about sleep. It was about the dreams they once had for their life, the bright, colorful ambitions that now seemed like faded photographs from a distant past. Their eyes scanned the towering shelves, seeing not just books, but rows upon rows of demands, of knowledge they felt they could never grasp. The library, a place of infinite possibility, felt like another monument to their own inadequacy. They were lost, and this vast sea of stories only seemed to highlight how far from shore they had drifted. As they wandered aimlessly through the labyrinthine aisles, a subtle change occurred. The air, which had initially felt just warm, began to feel different. It grew softer, gentler, wrapping around them like a comforting embrace. The musty scent of old books was now mingled with something else, something faintly sweet and familiar, like a forgotten memory, just on the edge of recall. It was a warmth that didn't just heat the skin, but seemed to seep deeper into the very core of their being. They paused, running a hand along the spines of the leather-bound books, feeling the history under their fingertips. It was in that moment of stillness that it happened. From a high, shadowy shelf, a single book tilted, then slipped. It didn't crash to the floor with a loud thud, as one might expect. Instead, it seemed to float downwards, catching the dim light as it fell, finally landing at their feet with a soft, inviting whisper. It lay there on the polished wooden floor, not as a random accident, but as an offering, a quiet invitation in the heart of the silent library. With a sense of curiosity that had been dormant for too long, the student bent down and picked up the book. It was slim, its cover unadorned, except for a simple, elegant title. There was a strange sense of familiarity to it, as if they had held it before, perhaps in another life or a distant childhood. They brushed a thin layer of dust from its surface and opened it. The pages fell open to a well-loved passage, and as their eyes scanned the words, their breath caught in their throat. This wasn't just any book. It was a collection of the very stories that had shaped their childhood imagination. Here were tales of enchanted forests, where trees whispered secrets to those who would listen. Here were stories of intrepid explorers charting unknown seas, their hearts filled with courage and a thirst for the horizon. There were fables of brave knights and clever princesses, of quiet heroes, not in swords, but in kindness and hope. Each sentence was a key, unlocking a door to a room in their memory they thought had been sealed forever. The magic, the adventure, the unwavering belief in goodness, it all came rushing back. A warm, gentle tide washing over the barren shores of their tired mind. They looked up from the page, their gaze slowly lifting to the shelves that surrounded them. Something had changed. The books, which had, just moments ago, seemed like a somber, sleeping army, were now different. A soft, ethereal light seemed to emanate from them. It wasn't a bright glare, but a gentle, pulsing glow, like the light of 1,000 fireflies trapped behind glass. It was as if each book had awoken, its spine subtly shimmering, its title faintly illuminated. The student realized with a jolt that these weren't just objects. They were vessels of dreams, of worlds waiting to be rediscovered. Each glowing book was a promise, a story that had been paused mid-sentence, a character left waiting on a precipice, an adventure left unfinished. The library was no longer a silent, dusty tomb. It was a living, breathing entity, its heart beating with the rhythm of countless, untold tales, all waiting patiently and hopefully for someone to open them and let their light shine once more. Choosing a small, secluded wooden table tucked away in a quiet corner, the student sat down. The old chair groaned a welcome as they settled in. The only light came from a single green-domed lamp, casting a warm, circular glow on the table and the open book. They didn't skim or rush. They read slowly, deliberately, letting each word sink in. They savored the cadence of the sentences, the richness of the descriptions, the simple, profound truths hidden in the narrative. As they read, the world outside the library, the rain, the deadlines, the anxieties faded away into a distant murmur. Old memories, vivid and warm, began to surface. They remembered reading under the covers with a flashlight, building forts out of blankets to create a private kingdom, believing with all their heart that magic was real. And with these memories came something new. In the fertile ground of their reawakened imagination, new ideas began to sprout like tiny, luminous seedlings. Solutions to problems that had seemed insurmountable now appeared clear. Creative sparks, long extinguished, began to flicker back to life. It wasn't just reading. It was a form of nourishment, a quiet communion with a forgotten part of themselves. The gentle light in their mind grew brighter with every page turned. Some dreams don't disappear. They simply rest inside you, like sleeping stories, waiting to be opened again. Thank you for joining this journey. If you love stories that touch the heart and awaken the mind, please follow our channel. We explore how learning English through stories can change your world, one page at a time. Subscribe for more.